You're listening to AI News of the Week, brought to you by the AI Tips and Tools YouTube channel. Subscribe for weekly insights, trends, and updates from the world of artificial intelligence.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into the swirling rumors and leaks surrounding the potential release of OpenAI's next big thing, GPT-5. This is a deep dive brought to you by the AI Tips and Tools YouTube channel, part of our look at the AI News of the Week.
Yeah, it feels like we just got our heads around GPT 4.0 and bam, the whispers about the next one are already getting, louder, way more specific, and frankly, pretty exciting stuff.
Absolutely. And our mission here really is to try and cut through all that speculation. We've got these sources, articles, reports, those insider hints, and we want to figure out what's really being said about GPT-5. Its capabilities, the timing, the potential impact.
Think of it as your essential guide, your
Yeah.
shortcut to understanding what this next leap for ChatGPT might actually look like based on everything that's out there right now here in early June 2025. We're going to try and connect the dots for you.
And there's definitely a lot of buzz. We keep hearing this talk about maybe a July 2025 launch, plus these pretty big claims that it's already smashing OpenAI's internal tests before anyone outside has seen it, and promises of huge leaps in reasoning, talking naturally, all that good stuff.
And we'll dig into the why behind that. What are the technical clues? What are the maybe strategic reasons driving these expectations?
Exactly. So as we go through this, maybe keep this question in mind for yourself. What part of a much more powerful AI is most interesting or, hey, maybe even most concerning to you? Is it the raw intelligence, the job changes, just having an AI that feels more, human to talk to?
Yeah, definitely let us know what you think. Drop your initial thoughts, any questions you have in the comment section over on the AI Tips and Tools YouTube channel.
Your input's super valuable, helps us know what deep dives you actually want to see.
For sure.
All right, so first things first, the timing. When might we actually see GPT-5? Why is July 2025 popping up so much?
Right, this is interesting because it's not just one source. You've got several different reports, observations, all kind of pointing towards the same time frame. Multiple tech outlets, insider reports, they're suggesting early to mid 2025. And yeah, July keeps getting specifically highlighted as a likely target.
And it's not just plucked out of thin air, is it? It seems like it ties back to things OpenAI folks have actually said.
Exactly. You remember Sam Altman back in February 2025? He gave this hint, pretty significant, saying GPT-5 would launch in months, not weeks. And that was right after they'd released GPT 4.5 Orion.
In months, not weeks, after February.
Yeah.
Well, that lines up pretty neatly with mid-year, doesn't it?
It does.
And we've seen this pattern of releases since then, too, like GPT 4.5 Orion in Feb, then GPT 4.1 more recently in May. It feels kind of planned.
Yes, that cadence, right. Putting out these significant updates, these intermediate versions like 4.1, it really fits with prepping a bigger model like GPT-5 for a summer debut. It looks less like they're making it up as they go and more like, a roadmap playing out. Maybe these smaller releases test out components or something.
So there's another clue mentioned in the sources, something more technical, the API deprecation for GPT 4.5, also set for July 2025.
Yeah, the API deprecation. That's a strong signal. I mean, why would OpenAI schedule the retirement of the API for a pretty recent model like 4.5 unless they're gearing up for a transition, moving developers to a new, likely more advanced model that replaces it or offers a big upgrade? Deprecations usually mean a successor is ready or very nearly ready.
Makes total technical sense. But it's not just the tech side pointing to July, right? The sources suggest strategy is involved too, like they're timing it deliberately.
It's exactly right. Strategic visibility. A July launch puts GPT-5 right in the middle of the summer tech buzz. Think about it. Google I/O 2025 would have just happened. You've got announcements coming from Anthropic, Meta, maybe XAI. Everyone's talking AI. Launch and then let's OpenAI really grab the spotlight, maximize that market impact.
Okay, so if you pull all that together, Altman's hint from February, the release pattern we've seen, this technical API change in July, and the competitive strategy. Yeah, that July 2025 rumor starts to feel less like random guessing and more like, I don't know, an educated prediction based on what we can actually see.
It really does. It feels quite plausible, even though, nothing's official yet. The pieces seem to fit.
Okay, so if the timing looks, well, plausible, what about the model itself? What's the early word, especially inside OpenAI, about how GPT-5 actually performs?
Yeah, this is where it gets really juicy. The reports start shifting from timelines to actual performance hints.
Yeah.
And several sources dive into what's supposedly happening behind the scenes.
And one of the big ones is from that tech insider at Tesla, right? Saying GPT-5 has already beaten OpenAI's internal benchmarks.
Exceeded internal benchmarks. Yeah, that's the key phrase. It implies that even against their own really tough metrics designed to push the limits, GPT-5 is apparently performing better than they expected at this stage.
Wow. And how are the people working on it reacting?
Well, according to that source, and others echoing it, the employees actually working with GPT-5 are reportedly blown away, like by its accuracy, its performance, how versatile it is. Coming from people who live and breathe this stuff every day, that's a pretty strong signal.
And it's not just inside OpenAI. There are whispers coming from developers maybe doing beta tests.
Seems so. Developers in that beta community have apparently hinted at similar things, talking about record-breaking evaluation scores. So whatever tests they're running, GPT-5 seems to be setting new highs.
Are there reports specific about where it's excelling, like which abilities?
They do highlight a few areas. Reasoning, memory, and multimodal performance get called out specifically as being really strong points. And that's crucial, right? This isn't just GPT-4 scaled up slightly. The improvements are hitting core intelligent stuff logic, remembering things, handling images in voice and text altogether.
So why does this internal buzz, assuming it's accurate, matter so much for us trying to figure out what GPT-5 might be?
Because it hints that this might be a genuine leap, not just an incremental tweak like maybe GPT-4 felt to some people in terms of raw power. It suggests they might have cracked something new in the architecture or training, something that's already impressing the experts closest to it. It implies the hype might actually be justified even before we see it.
Yeah, that internal view is really telling. It makes you wonder, though, and this is a question for you listening, when we hear terms like exceeding benchmarks or record-breaking scores, what does that actually mean? How would you even try to measure an AI's intelligence at this level? Is it test scores, problem solving, something else? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Seriously curious about how people think about this.
It's a tough one. Measuring AI smarts is still, evolving. But yeah, that internal reaction is a powerful clue that something significant is happening.
Okay, so moving from the buzz to the expected features. If it might launch in July and it's already impressing its creators, what are the core capabilities we should actually expect? What's it going to do that's such a big step up?
Right. The sources are pretty consistent here. GPT-5 is expected to be a major leap from GPT-4, tackling some of the big limitations we see now.
Major leap. Okay, big promise. Where are the reports saying the biggest improvements will be?
One of the most talked about things is true multimodality. We're talking full, seamless support for text, images, and voice input and output, all baked into one unified model.
So no more fiddling with different modes. It just gets it, whether you type, talk, or show it a picture.
That's the goal, exactly. GPT-4 had bits of this, but GPT-5 aims for seamless integration and much better performance. So, think significantly improved image recognition, maybe image generation too, much more advanced speech, understanding nuance, sounding more natural, and even potentially basic video understanding and description.
Whoa, video understanding. That feels like a whole new level.
It really does. Reports mention the possibility of real-time processing of visual input, like the AI could literally see and understand what's happening around it. Imagine asking it questions about a live video feed, or having it analyze a complex chart within an image and explain in detail, maybe even speaking the answer. That ties into what they call cross-modal reasoning, connecting ideas across different kinds of media.
That kind of real-world interaction would be huge. Okay, what about memory? That's always been a bit of an Achilles heel, right? Conversations resetting, forgetting context.
Ah, yes, long-term memory. Another huge focus area according to the reports. The idea is persistent memory across different sessions, different conversations, allowing for much better personalization, remembering context over time. Some reports specifically say the 2025 version will be able to remember things way more effectively.
So it could actually remember my name, preferences, stuff we talked about yesterday, without me having to constantly remind it?
That's exactly the goal. The sources describe the memory system as being completely overhauled. If they pull that off, it could fundamentally change how we interact. You're not starting from scratch every time. You're building context, almost like a relationship.
Okay, that would be massive. What about hallucinations? The AI just making stuff up confidently?
Definitely a critical target for improvement. A core goal is to significantly cut down on those false or misleading outputs. They're apparently tackling this through better training data cleaner, more reliable, and also architectural changes. Plus, the hope is that the better reasoning ability we mentioned will help the model kind of self-correct, spot inconsistencies, and just hallucinate less.
Yeah, fewer hallucinations means more trust, makes it usable for more serious things. How about getting information from the web, browsing?
Sources expect a vastly improved browsing tool. Supposedly, it'll be much better at understanding complex web pages, pulling out facts accurately, and cross-referencing different sources to give you synthesized, reliable answers.
Making it a seriously powerful research buddy. And the core intelligence itself, reasoning, problem solving.
This gets described as maybe the most significant area of advancement. The aim is more complex problem solving, better logical deduction, understanding cause and effect, why things happen, and making more accurate inferences. The ambition, according to some reports, is to more closely mimic human thought processes. That also includes things like better math skills, handling complex what-if scenarios.
Mimic human thought processes. Wow, that's a phrase. If those internal reports are right, maybe they're actually getting closer. What about just understanding language, the subtleties?
Yep. Improved contextual understanding is on the list, meaning it should get much better at figuring out ambiguity in your prompts, understanding what you imply but don't explicitly state, grasping your intent. Fewer frustrating misinterpretations, hopefully.
Less time trying to perfectly phrase everything. Nice.
Exactly. And the language it generates should sound more natural, more human-like too, less robotic. The goal is for it to chat in a natural way. Plus, better translation across more languages and dialects is also expected.
So, smoother, more intuitive, more genuinely conversational interactions. Any hints about the sheer size of this thing? The architecture.
Well, industry sources mention this internal codename, Strawberry, a new large language model. There's speculation, unconfirmed of course, that it could have way more parameters than GPT-4, maybe even over 1 trillion. But, importantly, the focus isn't just size. Reports suggest a big emphasis on parameter efficiency, getting more bang for your buck, more capability per parameter.
Efficiency makes sense. Got to be able to run it. What about how much info can juggle at once? The context window.
Another expected major upgrade. The token context window, basically how much text it can see and consider when replying, is expected to increase substantially.
Yeah.
That's huge for analyzing long documents, writing big creative pieces, or just having really long conversations without it losing the plot.
So potentially feeding it huge amounts of text in one go.
That's what a much bigger context window implies, yeah. And despite all this potential added complexity, they're also reportedly working on computational efficiency, aiming for faster response times.
Wow. Okay, that is a packed list. Seamless multimodality, text, image, voice, video, persistent memory, fewer hallucinations, smarter browsing, better core reasoning, better context understanding, more natural language, maybe a huge new efficient model, massive context window, faster speeds. It really sounds like they're trying to upgrade everything at once.
It's a lot, yeah. And if even half of that lands effectively, it'll be a pretty remarkable step forward.
Definitely. It makes me think, looking at that list memory, no hallucinations, true multimodality for you listening. If you had to pick just one feature you think would have the biggest real-world impact for you, which one jumps out? What would change how you use AI the most? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what actually resonates with people on the ground.
All right, let's shift from what it might do to how it might be structured. This reported move towards unification, bringing different OpenAI tools together.
Yeah, the sources suggest a clear plan here. GPT-5 is intended to consolidate a lot of the things that are currently separate models or tools.
Right.
You know, the code interpreter, the vision stuff, deep research, the operator tool they're working on. Right now, you kind of have to know which tool to pick for your task.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're trying to solve a puzzle just to ask a question the right way.
Exactly. And according to Jerry Tork, OpenAI's VP of Research, a big priority for GPT-5 is much tighter integration. The goal is that you experience things like codecs for coding, deep research, operator for screen interaction, the memory system, all as one unified, intelligent system, not separate things you'd have to manually switch between.
So ideally, the AI figures out what you need and just uses the right internal tool automatically.
That's precisely the aim. Tor calls it solving decision paralysis. Instead of you wondering, okay, do I need the code tool or vision? The unified GPT-5 should, ideally, just handle it seamlessly.
That sounds way smoother, but the reports mention the original plan for this might have been even more ambitious and hit some snags.
Yes, that's an important bit of realism in the reports. The initial hope might have been this grand unification, one single giant model doing everything equally well, but that apparently turned out to be technically much harder than they thought. which actually helps explain why we saw standalone models like O3 and O4 Mini recently.
Ah, so the one model to rule them all idea was maybe too complex for now.
Seems that way. Perfectly blending coding, vision, deep research in one architecture is, well, really hard. So the refined goal for GPT-5 seems to be less about total fusion and more about doing everything better and with less model switching from the user's point of view. It's about smarter, tighter integration rather than completely eliminating internal specialization just yet.
Got it. Integration, not necessarily complete merger. What about specific tools like Operator, the screen agent? Where's that at?
Operator's still in research, basic browser control not quite reliable yet,
Mm-hmm.
but the reports say it's expected to get a significant update soon, maybe around the GPT-5 launch, aiming to make it a very useful tool.
An AI that can properly interact with your screen. Yeah, that unlocks a lot.
Beyond consolidating tools, are there changes expected to the underlying architecture itself?
Yes, definitely. It's not just scaling up GPT-4. Sources point to refined attention mechanisms, how the AI weighs different parts of the input. Better attention could mean better handling of complex reasoning, understanding long connections in text. Enhanced memory structures, too, built for that long-term recall we talked about.
So fundamental tweaks to how it processes and stores information.
Exactly. And the training methods are likely evolving. More advanced RLHF reinforcement, learning from human feedback, is expected, using human ratings to guide the AI towards safer, more helpful, less biased outputs right from the start.
Trying to bake in responsibility. Anything else on architecture?
An enhanced plugin architecture is mentioned, making it easier for developers to build tools that GPT-5 can use. And improvements to its internal representation, basically. How it builds mental models of concepts and relationships. Better internal models could lead to more reliable reasoning. Okay, so it's not just features, it's improving the core thinking process and how it integrates everything. This unification, even if integrated rather than merged, plus the architecture tweaks, sounds like the goal is both more power and more usability.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see them tackle that challenge, taking all these powerful pieces and trying to weave them into something that feels intelligent and seamless for the user.
Okay, level pivot from the tech to the impact. If GPT-5 delivers, how might it actually get used out there? In industries, by regular people?
Well, the business world is definitely anticipating this. Organizations are already using AI, but GPT-5's expected boost in reasoning, problem-solving, and multimodality could really enhance things like customer service bots, content creation workflows, data analysis, make them much smarter.
That better core intelligence translates directly to business value, right? Any specific industries mentioned?
Yeah, reports mention healthcare, potentially more accurate medical insights, helping doctors or researchers. Finance, too, maybe better fraud detection by spotting complex patterns or improved risk assessment.
Concrete examples. Will businesses jump on this faster than previous models?
Adoption's likely to speed up, yeah. AI is becoming a competitive necessity. Reports suggest maybe even specialized enterprise tiers with features businesses need security, data handling, maybe custom tuning. And the ROI potential is highlighted. One report suggested early adopters could see payback really quickly through efficiency gains.
Fast ROI would definitely accelerate things. And what about Microsoft? Their partnership with OpenAI is huge. How does GPT-5 fit in there?
Oh, Microsoft is absolutely key. Their huge investment gives them prime access. GPT-5 is expected to be woven deeply into Microsoft's products.
Where should we look for it first?
Expect enhanced Bing search, maybe much better summaries. Big upgrades to Copilot within Microsoft 365 apps. Think smarter assistants in Word, Excel, powered by GPT-5's reasoning. New Azure AI services for developers wanting to build on GPT-5, and just generally, a much more capable Copilot across Windows, GitHub, everywhere. Microsoft's cloud, Azure, provides the massive computing power needed too.
So Microsoft becomes a major gateway for GPT-5 features. What about the rest of us? Regular people, is there excitement? How might we benefit?
Public anticipation is definitely growing. People seem excited about things that make daily interaction better, more natural chats, the AI understanding complex requests without needing perfect phrasing.
Tangible benefits.
The improved memory we talked about, huge win for everyday use. Better handling of images, voice, maybe video opens up new possibilities. And there's mention of a possible standard intelligence setting aimed at providing more consistent, reliable performance for common stuff, which would be great for non-expert users. And there's that really specific example from one source education. The report, ChatGPT-5 beats maximum tutors.
Right, tell me more about that. How could AI like GPT-5 change studying?
The idea is these AIs become super tutors. Personalized, always available, offering explanations tailored exactly to how you learn, generating interactive quizzes on the fly, giving detailed feedback on practice essays, structure, arguments, not just grammar, creating custom study plans, even making mnemonic devices to help you memorize things. It's like having an incredibly patient, knowledgeable tutor on call 24/7.
That sounds incredibly powerful for students. The source mentioned platforms trying to combine these tools.
Yeah, platforms like Shitronics are trying to bring together capabilities from GPT-5, maybe Claude, Gemini, all in one place. So students could compare answers, keep notes, organize research, maybe even collaborate with AI help. It's a really solid example of how GPT-5's power could translate into a very practical, impactful tool in a specific area like education.
Really highlights the shift from simple Q&A to sophisticated assistant and tutor, any other general uses.
Well, with better reasoning and browsing, it's an even stronger research assistant. For creative pros, maybe a more capable collaborator. For brainstorming, drafting, coding, even visual or audio tasks, if the multimodality is strong. And of course, privacy remains a factor, right? As these things get more capable and handle more data.
Absolutely. The sources say OpenAI is signaling stronger protections, but yeah, that's always something people will watch closely as adoption grows.
Trust is key, definitely.
Okay, we've hit timeline, buzz, features, structure, impact. Now let's zoom out. How does GPT-5 fit into the competition? The AI landscape is crowded. How does OpenAI see this model competing?
Well, interestingly, OpenAI folks themselves reportedly said they hope GPT-5 will let them compete a little more effectively against rivals like Anthropic's Claude 4 and Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Compete a little more. Sounds like they acknowledge others might be ahead in certain areas right now.
Exactly. They specifically mentioned coding as an area where competitors might currently have an edge by some measures. Even though GPT-4 is often seen as the overall leader right now, things change so fast. New, powerful models are popping up constantly.
Who else is mentioned as competition?
Reports also bring up Twitter's Grok, known for its real-time info and unique personality. DeepSeek gets a mention too, highlighted for achieving good performance, apparently quite efficiently, showing breakthroughs are happening elsewhere. And Microsoft's Copilot, while using OpenAI tech, is still a direct competitor for user attention. It's definitely a packed field.
You mentioned earlier that maybe standard tests, benchmarks aren't the best way to judge these new models anymore. Jerry Twerk's view.
Yeah, Twerk suggests those traditional benchmarks are becoming less useful. They don't really reflect how people actually use these AIs day to day. And critically, companies can sometimes game them, fine-tune their models just to ace the test without necessarily making them better for real-world problems.
So it's less about the score on a standardized test and more about, does it actually work well when you use it for real stuff?
Precisely. Twerk argues that evaluating models on real-world tasks, drafting that business plan, debugging tricky code, pulling together research, that's the real measure of value. That's what matters to users.
That's a really important point. And it leads to our next question for you listening. With all these powerful AIs emerging, GPT-5, Gemini, Claude, Grok, what factors, besides just raw benchmark scores, matter most to you when choosing one? Is it price, unique features, privacy, ease of use, integration? Let us know in the comments what tips the scale for you.
Yeah, user priorities are definitely going to shape how this market evolves.
Okay, final section. Let's step way back. What does this potential leap with GPT-5 mean for the bigger picture, the path towards artificial general intelligence, AGI?
Well, some experts are looking at GPT-5 and seeing it as potentially the most serious candidate yet for a kind of pre-AGI foundation.
Pre-AGI. So AGI being that hypothetical AI with human-level understanding across the board, GPT-5 as a foundation for that. That's a big statement.
It is. But the speculation stems from that rumored combination of features. The enhanced reasoning, the persistent memory, the true multimodality, letting it sense the world in multiple ways. That level of integration and capability starts to look like something that could form the base layer for more generally intelligent systems down the line. Sam Altman himself has hinted GPT-5 could power more autonomous agents, tools that make decisions.
Autonomous agents, like systems that can take a goal and figure out the steps, use tools, act on their own.
Exactly. Especially with talk of AutoGPT-style agents coming to ChatGPT Pro or enterprise platforms. If you combine GPT-5's language skills, its memory to track progress, its reasoning to plan, and maybe access to tools via that unified interface, you could see much more sophisticated agent behavior. Systems pursuing complex goals with less hand-holding.
An AI that can plan and act. Yeah, that feels like a definite step towards AGI, even if it's not AGI itself.
It points that way. And interestingly, that push for unification and better internal models we discussed, that could also help with responsible AI. If the model can better explain why it did something, That leads to more transparency, more trust, and maybe fewer hallucinations because its thinking is more coherent.
Transparency is huge for safety. What about this idea of growing token use from Jerry Twerk?
Right, Twick talks about future AIs using massive amounts of computation, measured in tokens, continuously. Not just when you prompt them, but maybe running in the background, processing your data, emails, behavior, with permission, to be proactively helpful. His view is, as AI gets more useful and cheaper, demand for this background processing will just explode.
So we won't just use AI more often, we'll use vastly more of it, constantly running.
That's the projection.
Oh.
And it explains why companies are investing so heavily in building the infrastructure, the data centers, the chips needed to handle that future demand.
Okay, putting it all together,
Yeah.
what does this evolution, maybe marked by GPT-5, mean for the future of work?
Torek offered a pretty interesting take. He doesn't think AI just replaces everyone. He sees work changing fundamentally. The skills needed will shift. And he floated this idea. Maybe one of the last jobs for humans is supervising AI systems.
Supervising the AI. How does that work?
Instead of doing the task, you oversee the AI doing the task, setting goals, checking its work for safety and ethics, making sure it aligns with what humans want, handling the tricky edge cases. Humans become the managers, the guides for these powerful AI collaborators.
That's quite a vision of the future workforce. Gives you a lot to chew on.
Definitely shifts the focus from execution to oversight and strategy.
And that brings us to our last question for you listening. Thinking about this potential leap with GPT-5, better reasoning, memory, powering autonomous agents, how do you predict this evolution will change the specific tasks you do regularly? At work, studying, personal life? What impacts do you foresee on your daily routine? Share your predictions below.
Yeah, hearing your personal takes on how this actually lands in real life is super insightful.
So there you have it, our deep dive into the rumors and reports swirling around GPT-5. From that possible July 2025 launch tied to APIs and strategy, to the claims of it already smashing internal tests, and this really exciting prospect of a model unifying multimodality, memory, and way better reasoning.
We've looked at how it could shake up businesses, how Microsoft plans to weave it into everything, and how everyday users, like students getting AI tutoring, might see real benefits from more consistent performance and easier interaction.
It really does sound like a significant step towards AI that's more unified, more capable, and hopefully less prone to making stuff up while understanding us better.
And while we need to wait for OpenAI to make it official, the signals and reports strongly suggest GPT-5 is coming, and yeah, it's likely to shift the AI landscape again.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. If GPT-5 can genuinely unify all these data types, text, image, voice, video, and think, with better reasoning and memory, what kinds of really complex, interconnected problems, things that were just too messy or required too much human effort before, might suddenly become solvable? Think about big science questions, complex business logistics, maybe even just managing the information overload in your own life. What doors might this unlock?
Powerful question. The potential applications really are staggering if these capabilities come together.
Okay, before you head out, just a reminder, this has been a deep dive from AI News of the Week, brought to you by the AI Tips and Tools YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss our future deep dives and all the latest AI news.
We really appreciate you joining us as we explored what might be next for ChatGPT.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.